Hi everyone, Krista here. Thanks for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, I post sporadically on anything that comes into my schizoid brain, but I mainly focus on horses and personal finance because I own 4 horses and they blow through all my money. If that sounds interesting, or even if it sounds like a complete train wreck that you can't turn away from, feel free to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell if you'd like to be notified every time I post a new video. In this video, I will be discussing how I single-handedly set up an inexpensive dressage court. So if that's of interest to you, smash that like button and we will get started. But before we get started, I just wanted to make one quickie point. I've noticed after filming and editing most of this video that it is a bit long, so I've included some timestamps in the show notes below. So if you don't have the time to devote a whole 35 to 40 minutes to watch this entire video, you can watch part of it and then come back later and click on one of the timestamps and watch the rest. Or if you're setting up your court and you want to reference specific parts in the video, like what materials to get, how to set up your corners, how to set up your lines, how to set your cones. You can do that by referencing some of the timestamps below. So with that information, we'll get started.
Now, if you're not a dressage rider, it's nice to set up a court anyway because the letters are great markers to challenge your skills and map out exercises and transitions, like walk, trot, canter. You know, the gist. You probably don't need to be as obsessive about setting up your court as if you are an actual dressage rider. So you can save on your sanity a little bit that way. I'm not going to get it too much into the dimensions and the letters, but I will post on this video a picture of the diagram, and I can give you some resources down in the show notes below. A large court is 20 by 60 meters, or about 66 by 197 feet for people that live in the US. And a small court is 20 by 40 meters, which is about 66 by 131 feet if you live in the US. I typically set up a large court in my arena. My arena is not totally rectangular. It was kind of built a little haphazardly, but it's 80 feet wide approximately by almost 200 feet long. One corner is just slightly less than 197 feet, which is the size of a long court or regulation dressage court. And then I just kind of wing it a little bit at the ends to make up for that sort of difference. I wanted to talk about letters and my current dressage cones. I'll show you what my current dressage cones look like. They're not in the best of shape, but I can also put in some information here on where you can get some supplies for letters. You can either make them yourself, you can order them from Dover. They have these kind of letters. This is one of them. The letter actually fell off. I don't like these because they have these little prongs at the ends here. I tried them once, but since I let my horses run loose in this arena, I don't like things with little prongs on them that can stab them. I currently use cones. I think I got these traffic cones off of either Amazon or eBay. They're white cones. I bought a bunch of them. I think they were like 200 bucks. And then I put the stencils of those letters. You can get stencils at either Office Max or Office Depot or staples, you can put the little stencils on the front. Chop around, get the big ones, get the like 4-inch ones, or else you're not going to be able to see your letters. Most of my letters have fell off too. Luckily, I've been riding dressage so long, I kind of know at least the patterns and which letters go where, even if my cones don't have any letters. Other things you can use that are really cheap is I've seen people use milk jugs filled with sand. If you have cement blocks, you can stencil letters on them with paint. Or you can buy those stickers. They have the dressage stickers that you can get at like Dover Salary. I mean, you don't have to get the stencils from Office Depot. You can get the actual letters. They're usually like a square with a letter inside, and those work very well too. And they're a little bit easier to put on because you have a square instead of a letter that can get all wonky. So when you're getting your materials for your dressage court, just keep in mind that you're going to have to deal with stuff like weather. I've gotten some of those little soccer cones that you can get on eBay. You can buy them. They're real cheap. You can get like 20 of them for like 20 bucks. But when you're setting them up as a part of your court, if you have a heavy wind, they're going to be flying all over the place. So it does take a lot of effort to set up a court, especially if you have to do it by yourself like I do. So I want something reasonably stable that's not going to fly away with the first wind. Just keep that in mind when you're purchasing your letters. I also use rails. Some people that set up their courts do not use rails, they just put the cones in. But what I found is if you don't have any kind of rail at all, and you're just trying to ride from cone to cone, it's really hard to make some of your lines really straight. Like let's say you're doing a shoulder in on the side, you're going to have the drunken pony shoulder in or a drunken pony travers. It's really, really difficult to make your lines straight and your figures correct if you don't have any kind of guide around the perimeter of the court. I use these, if you can see them. This is a landscape timber. You can get these at Home Depot or Lowe's, and they're pretty reasonably priced. They're about, I don't know, they're probably about $3 or $4 a piece, maybe more now. This was a long time ago I got these. They're flat on two ends, so if your horse kicks them, they're not going to roll around chaotically too much. They'll roll around a little bit, but it's better than if it was just a round pole. I painted these white. They come, I think, in a brown color. Painting is pretty labor intensive. You don't have to paint these. You can just leave them as the brown color. The other thing with those poles is you don't have to have them end to end throughout the perimeter. I stagger my poles so that my arena is not fully enclosed, but it has, just kind of like a dotted line down the perimeter. And that's sufficient for me to make my lines fairly straight. The next is pylons. I have bought these things called border block. You can get these at Home Depot. They're pretty inexpensive. They also make really nice corners. They are not the best thing for if your arena doubles as horse turnout, because if a horse steps on them, they will break. But if you can make an arena where the horses aren't trampling them, they work great. Another thing, this is heavy. This is a cement thing. It's got a hole in the middle. I think you can get these also at Home Depot. Some of them, they're like twin ones. They've got 2 holes, and they're about twice as long. These can also serve as pylons. I just wanted to show you how this cement thing works with the, it's got poop on it, with the landscape timber. What this will do is it'll stabilize your timber just a bit if your horse steps on it. The border blocks do the same thing. I can show you with that as well.
Okay, here's the border block. See how this landscape timber just sits really easily into that border block? And it does help, like if your horse hits the pole, it's not gonna rock away. So pylons are not really necessary. You don't need to use them with your landscape timbers. It just makes it a little prettier, and then it'll stabilize your landscape timber a bit. I've also used things like plastic flower pots that I got at eBay or whatever. Again, you pay for what you get. They were really flimsy. They would deteriorate very quickly in the sun, and they also would fly away in a big windstorm. Okay, so now for the measuring tape. I have two measuring tapes. One of these measuring tapes is 100 meters long, or 330 feet. The other one is 200 feet, or 60 meters. I like to get the type of measuring tapes that have at least one side with meters on it. This has feet on one side and meters on the other, because I don't like to have to do a lot of math and conversions while I'm doing my arena. I want to make sure it's 20 by 60 meters, and I just want to look at meters and not have to say, okay, that's, 66 point some odd feet or whatever. So I have two of them. That way I can use one for the long side and one for the short side, and then I switch. I don't want a tape that is shorter than that, because what I do with this is I anchor it at the corner, and then I run it the entire length of the arena or the court, and that way it's easy for me to just figure out where I need to put my cones. Now, I have done it differently. And I have actually measured like from cone to cone, and each cone, like the first cone is 6 meters down, the second one is 12. So I measured from cone to cone, and I kind of have looks like a drunken court, because my cones are not lined up correctly and my rails are not lined up correctly. Like I said, I am not a very anal person, but when it comes to my dressage court, I'm very anal, because if you screw it up and you try to ride in it when it's screwed up, it's a mess. It's really not fun. And all your circles will end up like ovals. Set it up right the first time, you won't have to worry about that. You also want to have stakes or something that you can use to anchor the one point of your tape when you stretch it across the arena. I have border blocks, and I use corner border blocks. They're really great. I just kind of jam the end of the tape in between the landscape timber and the border block in there, and then it just holds pretty well. The other thing that's really great about border blocks is you can make sure that you have corners with right angles. I'll show you what this corner border block looks like. Here is one of the border blocks. It has, and this is the corner one, so it has a hole here and a hole here. It's pretty trashed. It's been here for a while. It's really easy to have your corners be at right angles when you have something like this. I got a couple of tips here from Premier Equestrian. I looked at their YouTube video, and I will link that down below too. They have a good one on setting up one of their carts, which is probably a lot more expensive than the one I'm setting up, but their YouTube video is really good. First thing, you have to lay out your entire arena. So get your cones out. We're going to do that. So I kind of line stuff up here. I'm not going to do the whole arena for right now, because what's happening is I have most of my materials on the perimeter of my arena, so it's not going to be that difficult for me to adjust them once they're there. I used to just have all my stuff piled out. Now I pretty much, when I take down my cord, I kind of just push everything to the outside perimeter of my arena anyway. So it's basically set up on the outside of the perimeter. I didn't really think about that, but now what I'll do is I'll go ahead, I'm going to measure the short end first. So we will start with the A end, because there's an A in the middle of the short end, and this is the 20-meter short end. So we'll start with that. I've got the camera repositioned here down. I wanted to show you about the corners, because the corners are very important. I don't know if you can see. Here, let me point this down. This is the border block, the corner border block. The Premier Equestrian site has said, in order to make perfect corners, you have to have a Pythagorean, I pronounced that right, a triple to design your quarters, So if any of you guys are familiar with trigonometry, that means the hypotenuse equals the two sides squared, I believe, and it's a little confusing, but anyways, they said something about a 6-8-10 ratio for it. That would be a Pythagorean triple, and you can do that to make sure that your corners are correct. That means that you would have to measure one side for like 6 feet and the other side for 8 feet. And what I did here is I put two landscape timbers together, and I'm gonna just mark that. I can mark it with, this is becoming my favorite, almost like duct tape. This is that wrap. What I do with the corners with the tape is I kind of just jam here, and hopefully you guys can see this. With my border block, I can put it out and then just kind of jam the end of this tape in here, and then it just, you know, you can, it will hold it pretty good like that, right? Then you don't need another person to help you with this if you don't have one. And then I'm going to measure this out about 6 feet here. Doesn't have to be meters for this. I'm going to put a piece of that wrap right here. You can also use duct tape. Doesn't matter for your marker. That's one side. Now I'm going to do the other side. And in this one, it's going to be 8 feet. Okay, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this, but this is the other side. I used my other tape. That's what's really nice to have more than one tape. And I'm going to measure this out for 8 feet. So that's about 8 feet there. I can put more of my, it's about the end of this, so I'm going to use that as my gauge. It's a little bit shorter because of the bunching of the tape, but it's going to do for me. For okay. Okay, so now I'm going to try, I'll just do it to the end of this block, and then I'm going to take my measure here again. And I measure my mark to the end of this, and that's going to be 10 feet. So if it's not, I can adjust it. I have to put something here to hold this. Maybe that would work too with the bed wrap. Another idea for that. So that's actually about 10 feet. It's a little bit, you know, it's pretty close. The next step is to mark off your first short side. So I'm going to take my tape, which is anchored with the border block. I'm going to run it down for 20 meters.
way down 20 meters. The next thing I'm going to do is put my C cone at 10 meters. And then if you want, you can use landscape timbers or pylons, whatever, across the short side, depending on how many you want. Like I said, I stagger mine because I don't have enough to do the entire perimeter of arena. So I just make the lines. It's kind of like, it looks like a dotted line, and I ride through it. It's nice to have a tape that has the meters on it. So I'm going to put this A cone here. And put a quarter block here. So now I'm going to work on the long side here. And again, I'm just going to take the tape measure and run it all the way down 60 meters to the end of the arena here. Okay, so I've repositioned my camera here, and I'm going to run my other tape down for 60 meters. Anyways, as you can see, my line is all the way down the arena here. It's not perfectly straight, but you know what? I'm okay with that. I want one line where I can put my cones and my rails against, so it's relatively straight. Because if I try to do this myself without a guide, it's going to be all over the place. I know me. We are going to put the cones up. And because I have this wonderful tape, I just measured out, this is 6 meters. I can put my cone here. Like that. So this is my, I guess it would be my F cone. It doesn't have a letter on it, but I think that's F. And then the next one would be P. The P would be at 18 meters because you're doing 6 plus 12. Okay, so I'm going to readjust the camera here so you guys can see me fix the rest of the arena. So now I'm going to put my V cone out, and that is half the long side of the arena, so that would be at 30 meters. So again, I have my tape laid out, so I don't have to measure anything. I just put it at 30 meters. And I can put more of my... Okay, and the next cone is going to be at 42 meters. Which is the M cone, and that is going to be at 52 meters, and that is going to be, no, 54 meters, sorry. It's going to be at 54 meters, and so that will be at 6 meters from the end corner. Roll that landscape timber up. If you don't have pylons or border blocks or whatever, you can just put it on the ground. If the horse hits it, it will move, but because it has a flat side, it doesn't move as much as if it was just a regular pole. I have a border block here, I can put this out. this is the second short side. I just wanted to give you a tip on doing this side. When you do the second short side, you want to do it from the same long side as you started from for your other short side from the measuring, because if I start at the other end, if I have any variance at all, my cones, the pear cones, are going to be misaligned. So my C may not be directly across from my A. Same thing on the long sides. You want your, oh gosh, what's on the other side of M? Okay, I'm just going to make it easy for me because I know the middle ones are B and E. So you want your B directly across from your E cone, because if it's not, you're going to get really frustrated when you try to ride your figures. Trust me, I've done it. And your circles are not going to be symmetrical circles, they're going to be eggs. So when you're measuring out your court, if there's any variance at all, you want to make sure that you measure on the same side that you start from. Hopefully you got that. And I will go ahead and set up my second short side. I do not have a corner border block for this corner. I think it got destroyed, and because I don't want to do a triple Pythagorean triangle thing, I have this rafters angle square. I don't know if this is going to work that well because it's very small, but I can put it in the corner here and then try to just adjust it. I'm just going to make it real quick. Hopefully I can do the rest of this video and have my arena turn out really good. So I'm just putting this here. So I'm going to go ahead and measure the second short side. I'm going to put my cone at 10 meters. Same side as I put my other 10 meter cone. So it will be directly across from my A cone. And then I'll probably put a couple landscape timbers marking the end of my arena here. Okay, so that is my second short side. I have to do the next long side. Now, I'm not going to start from this end. If I didn't make that clear before, the reason I'm not going to start from this end is because when I initially started measuring, I started from the other end. And since I want my B and my E to be across from each other, and my M and my H to be across from each other, and I don't want weird figures, I have to start at that end if there's any variance at all in the symmetry of the court. So I'm going to start at that end for my next long side, and that's going to be my last side. Okay, so I have most of my equipment down at that end. I thought it would be really cool to have this camera set up here, which on the other side I set the camera up on the other side. So I'm going to work towards the side because I'm starting at the same end as I started my first corner and my first short side and my first long side. So I'm still going to start at that end, and then I'll work down here, run the tape down, put the markers in at 6, 18, I think 30, 42, and 56, like I did on that other side. And it'll be easy because I've just got
you know, my tape all the way across, don't have to measure several times. So we'll go for it. Oops. Okay, that I blew. So what happened there was my end of my thing came unanchored. So that always is a problem. But I think it's about right. So I'll just go ahead and do this, and I'm going to anchor it again. So I'll be right back. Well, that's it for this video. Just a couple of other things. This is, like I said, this is for the long court or the regulation dressage court. You can also do a 20 by 40 meter short court. Some tests are done in a short court. Also, Cowboy Dressage is done in a short court, and then they have a different way of doing the cones. So that's also something that you can look into. If you do Cowboy Dressage, take a look at their website, because our cones are at 6 and 12 meters and theirs are at 5 and 10 meters, I think. So it's a very different configuration with the court. And I think that's it. I'm going to show you a picture of the final product. I'll just take a snapshot of it and project it in this video. And that's probably good enough. It took me about, it took me over an hour, probably close to 2 hours to do this, but that's because I'm filming. If you're doing this by yourself, it probably would take around an hour. You know, as you do it more often, you become more efficient. So that's always a good thing. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, feel free to smash the like button. It really helps YouTube know that you like the video and you would like to see more content from moi. If you would like to see more videos like this, feel free to subscribe. If you have any comments or want to share your tips at making a dressage court or setting stuff up or whatever, feel free to comment below. And if you like to be notified every time I post a new video, please press the bell. Thank you so much. Think outside of the dressage court, and bye for now.